What's up, chat? Welcome back. It's Thursday. We are reading a bunch of Imperium detachments today. It is the final detachment day of 11th edition 40k. I hope you guys are all ready for it. I have, in preparation, permanently uninstalled Adobe Acrobat Reader from my hard drive, so it will stop co-opting my efforts to read these large documents in a timely manner. And we have all the detachment points and stuff, which is sick. So, yeah, I think without further ado, let's hop in. Let's dive into this whole thing, and start with, I guess we start at the top and we do, Astra Militarum. Kind of makes sense. That's the one that Games Workshop lists first, at least. So, I think that's where we go. So let's do that. So starting with our detachment points and things, definitely, I think, kind of, understandably, Astra Militarum has a lot of taken hold. They do love taking and they do love holding. However, they also have a lot of 3 detachment point detachments, apparently. Combined Arms, Grizzled Company, Recon Element, all 3 DP. This does give me heart, because I think there was a lot of people who are like, this might be silly. We'll see if we could just spam a trillion guys in Recon Element and call it a day. We'll see how it goes. I don't know. But of course, 3 detachment points does depower it very slightly, although obviously, like, at a core level, a lot of its stuff still works. It's also, it has different interactions with the new cover rules. However, you could stack its courageous diversion with the new cover as well. So if you do have like Acadian command squads, you could give yourself cover, and also the other thing, which is pretty good, cover, and also the -1 to be hit. So there's a lot of stuff going on. Let's look at the actual document. And what we're going to do real quick, I'll hop back over here while I scroll through a million data sheets to find the errata section. We're going to make sure nothing massive has changed inside here. I think a lot of this stuff is understandably pretty standard. Yeah, I think these all look like they are the new either range bands for things, or they are just the updates that we've seen previously. Recon Element Masters of Camouflage changed to models for your army with the benefit of cover. While such a model has the benefit of cover for any other reason, approved to save characteristic of that model by 1 to maximum of 3. So you can get the -1 to hit. And if you also find yourself in cover, thanks to probably Acadians, you're going to get the +1 save, and then you can take cover for an additional +1 save. So you could be -2 to be hit if you are in cover and courageously diverted, and also, minus, or basically have almost the same save characteristics you had previously, not quite the same. So there are going to be some situations where this is actually better, but it is a little bit. I guess it's like less easy to stack things together because it's benefiting. Outside the Kidney Command Squad, it's benefiting from cover naturally on a large infantry unit. It's a little bit difficult. It's a little tougher than it was previously. Looks like Tanglefoot Grenades has changed to select a visible enemy unit within 12 inches. When that enemy unit declares a charge, the enemy is minus 1 to charge rolls. This is the version of this effect that actually works and doesn't just make it so your charge is a little bit weird, but not that big of a deal. That's Tanglefoot Grenade, which at the time initially was start of your opponent's charge phase. Each time an enemy unit selects your unit as the target of the charge, you get -2 to the charge roll. Now it is -1, but you do it before they charge. We talked about this basically every one of these videos. What's wild about this is that they refuse to standardize this effect. Why are there like 3 different versions of this that do very marginally different things? It's incredibly stupid. Very frustrating. So we'll see. So let's hop in and talk about some detachments. I love a good detachment. Abhuman Auxiliaries is the first one. Oh, hello. Being visited by a cat. Oh. I got there's a little house in this new cat tree I got, and she's immediately gonna make use of it. That's cute. Nobody can see that, but I can, and I can describe it to you, and it's very cute. Lilac, you want to come hang out with chat? What's up, kitty? Come over here. No, not today. All right, fair enough. Let's hop in and talk about IPV auxiliaries. So, this detachment gives Bullgrin, Ogrin, Rattling Squads, Abhuman, Commissar units can order, issue, take aim, and issue 1 order to a friendly Abhuman unit. Can't take it with other Abhuman detachments. I don't know are there any? I guess like Grizzled has the 1 enhancement for them. But I don't know necessarily if that makes it an Abhuman detachment. So that's interesting, I guess. Sharp Eyes, Light Fingers gives you rattling units, +6 detection range to enemies. So they can see things and shoot them. Although rattling is like, you take them because like they have guns. We don't really take them for their guns. I don't know necessarily if you're paying more points to make rattlings better at shooting. Exemplar of Duty gives a Commissar model of 4+ feel no pain. Also kind of a law joke because the Commissars have like 3 wounds. So doesn't go that far, to be perfectly honest. So yeah, these enhancements are kind of whatever, dude. Stratagems, Thick-Skulled Obdurance gives your Bullgrins an Armor of Contempt effect if they are in range of an objective. That is legitimately good, especially if you have the slab shields for -1 for a 2+ save, or and as opposed to the 4+ invuln. And you can mix and match and then put them in different attack groups, which is not too bad. Low profile gives you rattlings that can remain hidden. Again, we might want to do attacks with rattling sometimes. Command points are kind of you might be strapped for cash, and I don't know how often we're gonna pay us command points to let our rattlings do stuff and still remain hidden. Maybe we're gonna take larger units of rattlings with the extra detection range and stuff, but I honestly kind of doubt it. And then stirred to action gives you Blood Surge when an enemy unit targets a Bullgrin or Ogrin squad. Again, actually good stratagem. Bullgrin being able to Blood Surge is actually kind of a big deal, so we do like that. Overall, I don't love this one. The problem here is that it doesn't actually offer a baseline ability. It does actually, for 1 point, let you take Commissars that can issue take aim just generically. So you can have like Commissar Graves who can like wander around and give take aim to people, which is helpful. Otherwise, she's just giving like fixed bayonets, right? Or +1 OC. The Abhuman stuff is interesting because like there's no actual explicit buffs for Abhumans. It's just that you can order them with Commissars. They can't order move, which is the real thing like that you want to get onto these units, and you obviously very rarely can. It's almost impossible to be able to. I think it is impossible to get that order onto Bullgrin squads nowadays. So I don't know. I don't know if I'm that into this one. I do like the idea that it buffs Commissars, and then like the buffs for Ogrin and Bullgrin is good. However, exactly how much we're going to take those is, I guess, open to is a big question. Bullgrin squads are probably pretty good as like objective grabbers. Not Bullgrin squads, Ogrin squads. Sorry, are probably pretty good as objective grabbers. Bullgrin squads being able to hide is not too bad. But Ogrin, like as the little 60-point 3-man squads that run around and just like blast enemies off objectives with 1 million attacks, doesn't feel like it's going to be pretty good. Are we also going to invest in Commissars to buff them? I don't know. Yeah, I would be curious. for sure. I don't know about that one, chat. We'll see. Especially, I think, in comparison to some of these other ones. Bridgehead Strike over here for Militarum Tempestus. And Graves can move. Oh, can she? Actually, if Commissar Graves can, then we might be okay. Oh, she can. No, you're so right, chat. I did not realize that. That's pretty good, actually. So this is Foot Graves, and then Car Graves can issue move, and to do so after you disembark. And then so once per turn you can get an order. She is Commissar keyword, I assume, right? Yeah. No. Oh, she's not. Just kidding. Just kidding. So this doesn't actually matter. So Graves actually does no synergy with this. The classic Astra Militarum problem of keywords being a fucking nightmare, dude. Of course, Commissar Graves wouldn't be a commissar. Of course, chat. Why would anyone? What? Look at me in the eyes. Why would anyone assume Commissar Graves had the commissar keyword? What a silly goose anyone would be to assume that. Oh my god. Dude, this faction's a mess. Every time I try to talk about something with Astra Militarum, it ends up being a fucking nightmare. That's okay. Oh boy. Well, that would have been a good combo. I definitely would have been excited to like drop Ogren out of transports and then order them or something, but no, I guess get fucked. Not that Commissar Graves is bad, but she just has no synergy with the Commissar detachment. Just okay. That sucks. Good thought though, chat. We were almost there. Bridgehead Strike. Let's talk about Bridgehead Strike. The Militarum Tempestus officers. While Militarum Tempestus officer model is your warlord, all scions have battle line and +1 OC. Fuck yeah. When a friendly Militarum Tempestus unit is selected to shoot, if that unit was set up in the battlefield to Sharon, it gets +1 to hit. Dude, the detachment bonuses here are fucking night and day. Commissars can do a fun thing versus every Tempestus scion is +1 OC, +1 to hit. Okay. For one detachment point, okay. You can get the Bombast class Vox Array, which I believe is the same as it was previously. It's for a Tempestus officer when he issues an order. If he has a Master Vox, he triples that order. He issues it 3 times to 3 different regiment units, which is fucking sick. And then priority drop beacon Tempestus officer model in your first movement phase can make an ingress move. That's really cool. You still can't, I believe, let's fact check myself on this, but I believe that you can't rapid ingress with that because rapid ingress explicitly says you can't use the stratagem in the first battle round. But what that could let you do is either like drop in to clear infantry, to clear like your opponent's utility units. Rapid ingress you cannot use during the first battle round. So you can't do rapids turn 1, but you can do. Oh, it's also your movement phase. I don't know, so it doesn't matter. I don't know why I looked that up. But either way, what you can do is harass your opponent early or use it for secondaries early. Like if you get turn 1 a plunder or something, I can drop this unit in your territory on terrain, plunder it, get a bunch of points, and then hopefully make it difficult for you to actually come back and attack that guy if they're hidden. If they're hidden and gone to ground, he can be on your opponent's table half with a 12-inch lone operative, and just hope you don't kill him. I don't know. Not too bad. Definitely not the most exciting thing ever, but certainly super helpful. Also, if your opponent's bad at screening, you just get to shoot them, which is awesome. If they're like on their home objective and can't screen very well, you just drop in and get full rerolls on them. get blasted. Pew pew. On my position. At the end of your opponent's charge phase, choose a friendly engaged regiment unit. Roll a d6 for each enemy unit engaged with your unit. On a 2+, that enemy suffers d6 mortal wounds. Then your unit suffers 3d3 mortal wounds. This strategy was actually fucking awesome. I do like that it is your opponent's charge phase. I believe that the original wording of this strategy was like every single fight phase or something, and you could do it multiple times. It was brutal. It is still extremely good, especially if you're using it on stuff like big 20-man bricks, because you can ping yourself for, whatever, 4 or 5 mortal wounds. Blast your opponent for d6, which is almost certainly more valuable than your models, and then you regenerate your models with med packs anyway, so it doesn't matter. I love this stratagem. It's super good. The one weird thing is that it's not going to be able to, if your opponent charges your unit and then goes to like combat slingshot somewhere else, you're not going to be able to do it on the combat slingshot unit. You have to do it on the unit that they charged initially, because they haven't piled in at the time that they use the strat, but that's not too bad. You could also do some weird stuff, I think, with like model positioning. By taking damage in the charge phase, you could unengage your unit, which could make it more difficult for your opponent to consolidate into or pile into you. So, you can change, the position of your unit essentially to make it so that your opponent has less pile-in targets. There's definitely going to be some very, very strong use cases for that strat. Could you on my position after heroic intervention? Because they're both end of the opponent's charge phase, how it will likely work, and we don't have the rules addendum, which will tell us exactly how the sequencing happens. How it will likely work is that you will present to your opponents 2 stratagems that you wish to use. You wish to use heroic intervention, and you wish to use on my position, and your opponent will tell you the order in which they resolve. That's how it works in 10th edition. I don't see a reason for it to have changed, but maybe. You could theoretically, but only if your opponent lets you, basically. All right, so Firing Hot is the next one. It is 2 command points for some reason. It gives all your hotshot weapons +1 strength and AP. +1 AP, legitimately pretty good, because they used to be AP1. Now they're no longer affected by the -1, or the cover bonus. So going to AP2, actually relatively spooky, but you are buffing. You're paying 2 CP to buff a bunch of like strength 3 and 4 like anti-infantry weapons, which is like not that exciting. I don't know. You do get potentially hit and wound rerolls if you're playing Toroxes. So maybe it's good, but you would much prefer to be burning if you're spending command points to buff your Tempestus Ions or your Kazakhin units. I think you would hopefully be buffing their special weapons in addition to their hotshot weapons. So I don't know about that one. Last is Servo Designators, which gives a Tempestus Scion unit the ability to strip cover from enemies by shooting at them, which is fucking awesome, especially because you have battle lines of Tempestus Scions in this army. So you can just drop these little 5-mans everywhere, and then they can just selectively shoot and remove cover from people. This stratagem is actually incredible. We love this. Also, it has the cool new wording where it occurs after you shoot, and you retroactively check your hits, and you declare that it affects one unit that you hit. Much superior wording than or timing, I guess, to previous versions of this, where you use them before you resolve any of your ranged attacks. This stratagem actually absolutely rules. Next up is Designation Force, which has the recon tag. What does that do? Who knows? We have no idea, because apparently we can't be bothered to update tags inside the faction packs. Sick. It gives you all of your Scout, Sentinel, or Smoke keyworded units, which I'm actually interested in who has Smoke. I think the Infiltration team does. What is it called? It's like the Reconnaissance team or something. The Acadian Recon Squad. Are they in here? Maybe they're not. I believe that Gaunts. Oh, hello. How am I so bad at typing? Gaunt's ghosts, I think, are smoke. They are not. Do catechins have smoke? No. wait, who does this buff? Who the fuck in Astra Militarum has the smoke keyword? It is the recon squad? Okay. I just can't. I think they might not be at 39k. It's just it's just what I'm running into. I do need to update this to use the GW app, I think, in the future. I need to basically install a system where I can put it on my stream instead of doing this whole thing. So it's gonna require some work for me, but this is definitely like way outdated and stuff. Interesting. Is it like, do command squads have it? No. Is it literally just the recon squad? Right. Well, fair enough. Do infantry smoke? Do ratlings have it? Does it affect ratlings? Nope. Yeah. All right. Fair enough, I guess. Aquilons do? Oh, really? Is it? Why? Why is it explicitly to Pestis Aquilons? Do Scions have smoke? No. Okay. Dude, this fucking factions keywords make no sense. Oh, and Krieg combat engineers? Okay. Well, fair enough. I mean, honestly, Aquilon's having it's kind of sick. Real talk. Because that unit can just drop in wherever they want and then apply this detection range buff. That's kind of cool. That's neat. I like that. But the fact is, like, trying to push you to buy recon squads is very funny. Yeah, they're really reaching for that one. That's very funny. All right, but it also affects Scout Sentinels, which is great. You can choose an enemy unit in your shooting phase within 12 inches. It gets designated for +3 detection range. I've seen this a million times. It's not too bad. Long range scouts gives a Scout Sentinel infiltrate. This is not quite as good as it was previously because, well, first of all, Scout Sentinels can't hide, so their options to infiltrate much more limited. And B, they have Scout, so they just like lose Scout when you buy infiltrate for them. Pretty silly. Recon Star in your first movement phase allows an Astra Militarum infantry platoon unit to make an ingress move. That means it is a command squad, right? Yeah, so like a Cadian command squad could get that. I guess like regular shock troopers and stuff probably can't, right? Yeah. Oh, they can. Okay. So this works on basically the basic bitch infantry, the non-specialist guys. Not scions, which is important to note. So it is legally distinct from the priority drop beacon that we saw previously. We have some stratagems. Close range detection. Let's a Scout Sentinel give +3 detection range to all visible enemy units within 6 inches. Pretty close, but it stacks with the designated targets effect, so you can get +6 detection range on something for 1 command point, as long as you sacrifice a Scout Sentinel to do it. Triggered alerts lets any Astra Militarum infantry unit move D3 +3. This, honestly, might simply be worth the squeeze. That might be worth 1 detachment point. It is any unengaged Astra Militarum infantry unit, which is wild. So, already kind of into that. That's super good. Sump Smog Screen gives your unit benefit of cover and then also benefit of cover to everybody behind them, which is weird because that's just smoke. Right? Am I crazy? Does this just give you a second smoke? We've already had one smoke, yes. What about second smoke? So smoke screen, start of your opponent's shooting phase, one smoke unit. Till the end of the phase, each time an attack targets the smoke unit or a unit that is not fully visible to the attacking model because of one of the models in your smoke unit, the target has the benefit of cover, which is the same. So they just reprinted smoke? Okay. I don't understand it, but I guess it's there. Maybe we just really wanted 2 smoke units, you know? We also get to discuss how visibility works if you have like hidden and you are already not visible. Do I block line of sight if I'm hiding and you can't see me? I don't know, man. I don't think it really matters because I don't think that it's going to occur that often that I have a unit that's hidden and deploying smoke and the unit that's being targeted was not already behind line of sight or out of line of sight thanks to the terrain I'm hiding in, right? So like the sequence of events that has to occur for this to matter is wild. But I don't know how it works. I have no concept of how this is supposed to work. Just super bizarre. Yeah, also tall models look over it, yeah. Yeah, the idea that infantry are going to block line of sight to each other, and unless there are some cases where it can happen, where right, you just wrap your unit with your other unit and then deploy smoke with them. That does make sense, but it's a lot of work, right, for just the benefit of cover, which is like something you can get by just standing in a square. So yeah, I don't know if this is like where it's at. I believe that's all we got for Astra Militarum. I guess, are there any interesting wombo combos with this? The stuff we can take alongside is Armored Infantry, Hammer of the Emperor, which might legitimately be good. Potentially alongside Designation Force, because Hammer gives your squadron units auto 6 advances. And unless I am mistaken, Scout Sentinels have both squadron and regiment. So, yep. So they get the Hammer of the Emperor detachment ability. So what we could potentially do is stick those two together, which is pretty cool. I don't know if I recognize all of these. Mechanized Assault is +1 to wound when you disembark transports. Ooh, that might be good alongside Bridgehead, actually. Although you do lose the thing where you take like Bridgehead and Hammer, and then you auto 6 advance your Toroxes and then disembark from them, which is actually super good. That was actually a highly competitive composition in 10th edition. But being able to like run Toroxes with scions that are +1 to hit and wound and get hit and wound rerolls could actually be sort of insane. We could go a little nutso with that. Yeah, I think there's some really cool stuff in there. So, I bet that's like kind of a wombo, to be honest. Assuming, I believe that it is the case that Bridgehead Strike just triggers on setup, right? Not ingress move. Yeah, setup this turn, which includes disembarking. So we can put together +1 to hit and +1 to wound on Scion's units. I love that, actually. I think that's sweet. I'd play that. I'd play the fuck out of that. I actually kind of want to play that right now. Seems good. All right. Let's move on. And we will talk about our next faction, which will be what's next on the list? Adepta Sororitas. All right, so we'll move over and I guess look at momentarily their detachment points since we have them. Bringers of Flame and Hallowed Martyrs come to 3 detachment points. Everything else is either 1 or 2. Champions of Faith, Army of Faith, Penitent Host both come in at 2, so we can wombo them with the new stuff, which is cool. There is a big open question for Hallowed Martyrs, because obviously we don't know how healing works, because they refuse to tell us. If I have a Hospitaller, for example, who's part of a bodyguard unit, the bodyguard unit gets destroyed and the Hospitaller gets killed, gets divine interventions back, do they regenerate the bodyguard unit? I have no fucking idea. There's obviously like a lot of importance for Hallowed Martyrs based on exactly how that works. I did play a game with Ash a couple weeks ago, and she made a really good point that Hallowed Martyrs ends up having a bit of a, or I guess Sisters in general, if you're taking multiple attached units, starts to have a little bit of a problem with Miracle Dice generation, because they have half as many units. Because their attached units count as basically half as many as they did previously. So throwing units away generates fewer Miracle Dice than it did in the past, which is actually kind of a big deal. We'll see if there are any changes to things. I think most of these are changes that we saw previously in last edition or are normal stuff. So I don't know if any of these are massive updates. Divine Intervention discards 1 to 3 Miracle Dice at the end of the phase. Last destroyed model from your unit so set back up on the battlefield. As close as possible to where it was destroyed, not within engage range of any enemy models. Roll a 1d3, adding 1. That is the number of starting wizard rays. Yeah. You don't know. It does say, it's interesting. It says last destroyed model in your unit. Does Divine Intervention target a character unit? Oh, it does. Wait, what? That's weird. It's not a character model, it's a character unit. That's bizarre. I did not realize that. that feels like a mistake they made from like very early for whatever reason, and they never fixed it. That's really funny. All right. Yeah, I don't think any of these have changed. But I'm sure somebody can correct me if they have been. And we can move on and talk about detachments. Let's see. Chorus of Condemnation is the first one. Flying infantry units can condemn enemies and give +3 detection range against them. Seems fine, I guess. That means that it affects all of your Zephyrim and Seraphim units. Seraphim stonks pretty far down because they can't shoot and scoot out of reserve anymore, which is not ideal. But it is what it is. Enhancements. Canoness of Jump Pack can get uppy downy. Not too bad. And Symphonic Payload gives you reroll the number of rolls to determine the attack characteristic of a weapon for an exorcist. You can also target a flying infantry or an exorcist and make a battle-shocked Adeptus Sororitas unit within 6 inches of the target, which is the flying unit or the exorcist, non-battle-shocked. Actually, that's pretty good. It is start of the command phase, so it doesn't stop you from having to re-battle shock if you're at half strength, but if you have battle shocked previously and then retain, it basically stops you from having to re-roll your battle shock. You can kind of auto-pass battle shocks that you would have to take from being already battle shocked. The important thing to keep in mind is that you have to do it at the start of the phase. So you have to do it before you roll any other battle shock. So it's not in the battle shock step, but it is pretty useful. Harmonized Exorcism. You use it when a friendly exorcist unit is selected to shoot. You select one visible unit to it, and within 9 inches of a flying unit, your unit's range attack gain +1 to hit. Weird that the exorcist. Oh yeah. So this could potentially allow you to offset the if your opponent is you're firing indirectly and your opponent is in cover, you would hit on 5s, right? But you could get yourself back down to 4s shooting indirect if you're being spotted 4 by a flying unit. You could also get yourself to hit on 2s if you could see them directly, which is not too bad. It does require a little bit of work though, which is not ideal. The Devastating Reprise gives infantry fly, allows infantry flying units to select an enemy monster or vehicle that was hit by an exorcist. Why are these so confusing? Why are there so many steps? So you use it when an exorcist has shot. You select an enemy monster vehicle hit by the exorcist. Then you target a flying unit and give the flying unit devastating. Not the exorcist. The infantry unit. All right. I think like +3 detection range is pretty good, and I do think Zephyrim are gonna I think disruption infantry is gonna be strong, so you're probably taking Zephyrim at a higher level anyway. To be honest, though, this feels like a lot of work. I'm gonna level. I think we're jumping through some hoops here for this detachment here. I don't know, and especially because Zeph have needed so many buffs to be good, like to be playable. And they're still really only playable when you attach characters into them. Like at a baseline, they themselves are not going to kill the unit they charge. They're like sustainer lethal. Well, they're sustained and lethal, but they're 3 base melee attacks apiece. So they're good if you have a Canoness in there. But if you have a Canoness in there, we're probably prioritizing a detachment that like supercharges the Canoness, less so that supercharges or that does stuff with the Zephyrim themselves. And then the fact that Seraphim are just like absolutely boned, coming out of reserve means I don't know if I really rate this that highly. I would be surprised, I think, if that one saw a ton of play. Sacred Champions gains the Reverend tag, which is probably to prevent it from going with Army of Faith, but we have no idea. Although, actually, that kind of like doesn't really synergize. We have no idea because they won't give us the tags. So who knows what this prevents us from jumping into. Enhancements, we have the Writ of Compunction, which gives a Sacrosanct unit +1 OC. Perfervid Haste, which gives you any Adeptus Sororitas character +1 movement on their whole unit. That's fucking sick. And then Celestian Sacrosancts innately have +1 ballistic skill, weapon skill. That's really sweet. We can pay 1 command point to make Sacrosancts get +1 attack and strength. We can play 1 command point to give them a 5+ field of pain against mortal wounds. That almost certainly won't matter because we basically are we have a 5+ field of pain against stuff anyway because we have a Hospitaller. So I don't know if we need that. And then lastly, Unflinching Determination gives Celestian Sacrosancts Assault. But then you can advance, shoot, and charge. Okay. Wow. Jesus. Okay. Pick 1 datasheet, make it extremely good. Advance and charge. So this is almost certainly to prevent Champions of Faith, right? From being stacked because Champions of Faith also stacks another movement characteristic increase with this. It does overlap the ballistic skill, weapon skill characteristic increases because you end up not actually working. It doesn't actually work. However, being able to add advance and charge and +1 movement, potentially +2 movement if we have Perfervid Haste, could potentially be very good on a faction that can guarantee 6s on advance and charge rolls. So, yeah. I bet that these two detachments get tagged together, but I don't know if that's the case. I wonder if there's like other places we could stick this that are good. I don't know. Like, is there? Can we just like slot them into penitent? Like, the weird part is, I think this detachment rules. But if I can't select it alongside either Hallowed, because Hallowed's 3 detachment points for Strike Force games, and for Champions, because it's probably where they're putting the tags. I don't know where you put this. But like, the level of stacked buffs is crazy. Advance and charge and +1 attack and +1 strength and +1 weapon skill and +1 ballistic skill and +1 move all together in one place. Okay, it's like actually crazy. Fascinating. Huh. Well, I think that's pretty good. I guess it's like kind of weird that it affects Celestian Sacrosancts explicitly and not Incendents. It's strange that they don't have like a Celestian tag separately. But I don't know. Lastly is Sanctified Orders, which I think rules. It doesn't have any tags. I have a sneaking suspicion that there is. Oh, it's another example of an upgrade that you can put on characters. I guess like I'll eat crow on the fact that I totally misinterpreted how upgrades worked, because I definitely thought you could not put them on characters, but I had already seen multiple instances of them. You can put this alongside the existing like pretty strong 2 detachment point detachments, so like stuff like Champions of Faith, and then it just attaches to 3 of your characters, and you just choose one thing at the start of a phase to give them. It works once per turn, but you could just be like, open question whether or not this effect works inside the movement phase if you're in a transport. I don't know, because it's the start of the phase. Whether you can use abilities inside of a transport, I don't know. But you could righteous a unit and then also do like Catechism of Raging Fervor, and you could push a Sacrosanct unit, so just like baseline +2 movement, off of the Hospitaller inside the unit, which is kind of awesome. You can make them automatically battle shock. You can give them attack +1 strength, +1 strength. You can give them -1 to be wounded, which you already have on a Sacrosanct unit, but you can be -2 if your opponent has a wound buff. And you can use it sort of reactively, because you can use it at the start of any phase, right? So if I haven't used it in that turn, I can just switch this ability into one of the defensive ones. So it also gives all of your character units +1 leadership, so you're pushing down to 6s and 5s in a lot of cases. Which is very relevant for the new Battle Shock rules. I think this is, in my opinion, the standout detachment. As long as Hagium Defects is not too expensive. If it's like a 35 point enhancement and I'm burning 100 points out of my army to do this and a detachment point, I might not be that excited about it. However, if I can hypercharge my righteous units, I think this is probably pretty sweet, which is pretty cool. Can you put them on characters with enhancements? It seems like absolutely not is going to be the answer. The scuttlebutt is that a unit with an upgrade will not be able to. You won't be able to combine units that either both have upgrades or enhancements. So if I have an upgrade on a core unit and I'm attaching on a bodyguard unit and I'm attaching a character that has an enhancement, they won't attach. And if I have 2 units with upgrades, they won't attach. I have to have. It's a maximum of 1 upgrade or enhancement per unit. Obviously, we don't have any of the actual verbiage of how that works, so we don't know. However, that is, to my understanding, how it will work. Yeah, I don't know. It's so interesting. This detachment really blows my mind. I'm in level with you. I'm so curious about it, the Sacrosanct detachment, about where we're meant to put it because it's so good. However, the fact that it's tagged gives me so much pause. So I have no idea. I guess that's it for Adepta Sororitas. I don't imagine that any of these things have changed. So we'll see how that ends up going. I know that there is potentially a universe where this unit becomes really good because psychic attacks get very popular because they ignore cover. And these guys get a 4+ feel no pain against psychic attacks, and they have anti-psyker devastating. So they're actually able to just go like beat up on, Lords of Change and stuff, which is sick. I do like the idea that there's counterplay to I like the idea that there is counterplay to psychic attacks now, because previously it was just this massive feel bad because psychic attacks had no upside and the only downside of just being hit by psychic defense. Now they're basically just like universally +1 to hit, and so having a psychic protection against that specific type of attack feels much better. And I think that's, I don't know, it's an interesting piece of technology for sure. And it incentivizes you to not entirely rely on psychic attacks, which will certainly be something that like Chaos Demons and stuff have to consider. Because if you are running Scintillating Legion with 1,000,000 Lords of Change or whatever, you run into a unit like this that just like, I guess Lords of Change will still kill this unit in fairness because they have 1 wound. But there are situations where you have like run into an army running multiple librarians or something, and your Lords of Change are just bouncing off psychic hoods, and you're like, this sucks. So I think that's pretty cool. All right. I guess looking at any combinations here, is there anything cool that we can potentially do? I'm interested in Penitent Host because I think Penitent Host was like really close. However, I don't think it has any synergy with any of these other ones besides maybe Sanctified Orders. Although Sanctified Orders says that it can't attach to penitent units. Which I don't know what that affects. Does that affect like missionaries? Or Ministorum priests? It does. So there is no synergy between Sanctified Orders and Penitent Host. It feels like you either play like a Bringers and you just like have fast guns. Fast guns good, I heard. And I think they're just going to be even better potentially in this new edition. Or you take Champions of Faith and Orators, which is unfortunate because I think this faction would love some build variety, and it doesn't feel to me like this is giving them any. But maybe I'm off base because I'm not an Adeptus Sororitas player. But I'm not. I don't really see any actual synergy between any of these things explicitly, which is a little bit weird. Adeptus Mechanicus time, I think. Let's go ahead and rock those bad boys. Take a peek at our detachment points. Eradication Cohort is 3 detachment points. Halo Screed Battleclade is 3 detachment points. That makes sense. But hold up. What the fuck is Eradication Cohort? Is that good? Does this say good detachment? Each time a model in a Skitarii unit makes an attack, you can reroll hits or wounds of 1 based on the doctrine imperative that is active. Can fall back, shoot, and charge on Skitarii. which is okay, I guess. Sustained or lethal until the end of the phase. Range weapons equipped by models of your unit have the selected ability. You can select hazardous and get sustained and lethal. In shooting phase only for a Skitarii unit. I mean, I get that's like fine. Lethal hits on Skitarii is good, especially if you're rolling ones. Skitarii infantry unit that lost one or more models as a result of attacking its attacks. You can shoot, and you can do like impact mortals. I mean, this is like blowing my mind. It's weird that that's 3 detachment points, but Skitarii Hunter cohort is 2. Okay. The fact that the other thing too is that Skitarii Hunter cohort from previous editions knowledge, right? Skitarii Hunter cohort and Halo Screed Battleclade are basically interchangeable. They have essentially slightly different access to the same effects. The Skitarii Hunter cohort is slightly less offensively oriented and a little bit more defensive, and Halo Screed Battleclade is the opposite. It's a little bit more offensive. But the fact that one of them is 2 and 3 detachment points feels like it just kills Halo Screed Battleclade, because I don't know if you're ever going to use it. If you could just take Skitarii and have mostly the same abilities, but then also plus 1 detachment. So that's weird. I don't know. That's super bizarre. All right. Well, let's talk about exactly what we're dealing with here. Let's see some erratas first. Especially because there's that new like Tech Priest detachment that looks really good, right? Yeah, the eradication is weird because it only affects Skitarii. If it's like if it was 2 detachment points and it was like a more offensive Skitarii Hunter cohort, and you could choose between the two, you took the defensive of Skitarii Hunter or you took the offensive eradication, it would give it a lease on life. Why the fuck is it 3? If it affects the same units, like what the hell? I don't understand. This is bizarre. This feels very mishandled. These are a lot of updates that I think we saw previously. Blah, 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 blah. Skitarii Marshal has the support tag. Skitarii Marshal has the support tag. Techno-Archaeologist has the support tag. Wait, that's sick. Wait, so I could dual attach a Marshal and a Tech Priest? I don't know where I would do that. But I like that I can. I guess you can have like a Manipulus gives you lethal, right? And I could attach a Marshal for hit rerolls that I could reroll into lethal, but I'm doing it on like Vanguard, so I don't know if I care that much. Hastari? Oh, maybe. Okay, I'm putting it together. So you can ignore cover Fusiliers. That, I mean, a full reroll. We're getting lethal hits on our strength 12 like gun, though. We're going to pay points for an entire Tech Priest on our 5 model unit. Well, we'll see what the points values are. Maybe the points values are very reasonable, and we can actually like spam Hastari with the attached characters. Let's see. Archaeopter Fuselage got the new bomb rules. A bunch of stuff changed. Hover. Belisarius Call. I think, yeah, gets all of his new buffs. Skitarii Marshal, once per battle at the start of any phase, can select a Skitarii unit that is battle shocked within 6 inches. It is no longer battle shocked. That's a really good ability. Skitarii Marshal Stong is actually like way up. Especially because if you don't have access to ignore cover, hit rerolls can get you around it, which is good. Cybernetica Datasmith gains support. Does that matter? Wait. Can I Can I dual attach any? I guess that prevents. I thought you could attach multiple cybernetic and data Swiss to a single casted robot unit. I guess you can. Huh. So I don't really know why it's support though, because you can't attach anything else to a casted robot unit, right? So like, why do we need it to be support? That's weird. I guess. Oh, it's so you can't take them by themselves, right? If the rumors are true that support characters have to attach. Oh, that also means that. Oh no, that also means the techno-archaeologist has to attach. Oh, that's so bad. Oh, that's actually a massive debuff. If that ends up being the case, obviously something they've talked about, but haven't actually seen the rule. But the rule rumor is that support characters will be required to attach into a unit with the added ability that they can attach alongside a regular leader. But the downside would be that a techno-archaeologist you oftentimes want to take with no attachment so that you can screen your deployment zone. And in this case, you wouldn't be able to. That actually makes him way worse. I was like, oh, that's neat. I could attach him alongside one of my other things if I wanted to. But they don't, like, do anything for the unit. They just I guess they do an OC characteristic modifier. They give you +1 OC, which is like fine, but I don't know how often that's gonna like massively come into play. But the big thing is that you want them for this thing, and if you take 2 or 3 of them for 45 points each, you can screen out your deployment zone, which is fucking sick. However, if you're required to attach into a unit, it's much more difficult to do that because you basically like triple this cost of the combination, and you're then leashed to the 9-inch coherency bubble. Oh boy. Okay. Well. Oh well. That's awkward and not great. Did they do that to Dark Strider and I missed it? Now I have to look up Tau. Because Dark Strider's the other instance of a character who has that effect, right? Oh, besides Geomancers. Geomancers also have it. But Geomancers, I do think, are supports, right? Because they are Cryptex? Yes. Geomancers did also get support keyword. And then Tau Guy Dark Strider. Dark Strider didn't. God damn. The Tau privilege is real, dude. So you can still take Dark Strider as a single entity, and he can screen your backline, but Techno-Archaeologists and Geomancers can't. Fortunately, Geomancers can just attach into like a 5-model Immortal squad. It's not the end of the world if you want the effect, and they're still going to be pretty effective at screening. But you're locked into at least 10 Skitarii here, right? Maybe can you put them in battle clades? That would be pretty cool, but I imagine that you can't. Battle clades can be led by anything that leads Cataphrone Breachers, which I don't believe includes Techno-Archaeologists. Oh, it does. Oh, you can put them in battle clades. Maybe that's where they go. Is here. Curious. That's fascinating. Huh. All right. Let's talk about that is a big change. I was expecting every Adeptus Mechanicus army to start with 2 cybernetic or 2 techno-archaeologists. Now I don't know if that's the case, but we'll see. Starting with detachments, the cohort acquisitus. It's great. Gives you the recon augury ability to Taraxi, infiltrators, rangers, Cerberus raiders, Cerberus Templar hounds. That gives you select a visibly enemy unit within 12. That enemy is analyzed. This is like so wildly divergent from the exact same ability in Astra Militarum, which gives it to you on like Scout Sentinels and then a bunch of nothing. This gives it to you on fucking half the faction. That's so good. Cerberus Raiders can get Lone Operative 18 or Lone Operative 15, excuse me, so they are only visible within 15 inches of enemies. What some people have said is that this is not very helpful because Cerberus Raiders are usually like they're scouting and they scout up into the center of the battlefield and they move up. I do think that this might open up a new use case for Cerberus Raiders where you can either use their like end of game scout effect, or you can just scout this unit with this ability up to your expansion objective and without being shot at, which I think is pretty interesting. That said, you can also just take infiltrators. So I don't know. But it's neat, I guess. Also having lone operative and like reactive effects is not too bad, so maybe it's fine. Skitarii Marshal can get infiltrators, which is awesome. We love that. Also, this can duel with Skitarii Hunter cohort somehow. So we can have the clandestine operations Skitarii Marshal as well. So we can have 2 infiltrating Skitarii units, which is kind of a big deal with the effect of being able to infiltrate Rangers onto midboard objectives and then obsec them from turn 1 and start them hidden as well. I think infiltrating infantry, infiltrating obsec infantry, kind of insane. So I don't know. Seems good. Defect scrutiny. When an Adeptus Mechanicus unit is selected to shoot, you can select a visible unit within 12 inches of a friendly recon augury unit. Your attacks again ignore cover. Love that. That's sweet. Obviously, like as we talked about, recon augury affects so many of the good units of the Codex. You're almost certainly going to be able to apply this to something that's relevant. It does only affect one of your units. It doesn't strip enemies cover for the phase or something like that. But if you do have like a big unit of Iron Strider Balisari, those guys are going to be able to lock in and really get blasting. Repolarized Augurs gives one of your units -3 detection range, a recon augury unit at the start of your opponent's movement phase. That can be helpful on infiltrator or ranger units that you have infiltrated up to the center of the battlefield. Again, like I can set up a situation where I can put a marshal in a ranger unit, infiltrate the ranger unit onto an expansion objective. My opponent come to try to kill me and I'm under detection range. And suddenly, if I'm gone to ground, I get a 9-inch detection. I might be able to obsec their expansion. if I can figure out they go to ground, obviously, which is crazy. Clandestine reposition allows you to reposition uppy downy infiltrator Traxi units. Already we're kind of like coming out of the gate swinging. This feels fucking sick. This plus Skitarii Hunter cohort just feels good. I don't know. We have like ignore cover and detection range modification on a stick and more things that buff our things that are buffed by Skitarii Hunter cohort. I have a hard time imagining anyone doesn't play Skitarii Hunter cohort. Like SHC is just like the gold standard for Adeptus Mechanicus already, and it's just going to be more so. Lords of the Forge is the next one. This is the Tech Priest Detachment. Gives you 4+ Invuln Save and 5+ Feel No Pain on all Tech Priest units. In addition, Tech Priest have the following ability. In your shooting phase, when this unit is selected to shoot, if it is not Battle Shocked, you can use the ability to, on a 2+, select an enemy vehicle within 12 inches. It must make a Battle Shock roll with -1. You can't target a unit more than once per turn. And on a 2+, your ranged attacks do not prevent you from being hidden. Fucking sick. These are all awesome. On a 2+, I'm not prevented from being hidden, he said, as he hides his Cataphren breachers. Excuse me, what? That's nuts. I don't know. This is also great. No notes. The other thing that we talked about when this was initially released on the live stream was that this stuff works on models. It doesn't necessarily work on characters. So if you take the Servitor Battleclade, it does have a Tech Priest in it. The Underseer is a Tech Priest model. So he has 2 wounds with a 4+ invuln and a 5+ feel no pain. And you can like assign him in like you could basically use the attack sequence rules to ensure that he basically never dies before the rest of the unit. So he probably, because you have individuals inside the army, inside the unit that have a very strong invulnerable save, he can probably just like tank 1,000,000 attacks. And your unit will never get one shot effectively, which is kind of wild. So I don't know. That's also great. This also affects Belisarius Call and Thulia Gold, because they're Tech Priest keyword as well. So they get a 5+ feel no pain and can heal themselves, which is also fucking crazy. So this detachment also good. This is a weird thing. It feels to me like a lot of these are written by different teams. We just talked about Adeptus Sororitas, and Adeptus Sororitas felt like it was written by someone who was like kind of just like copying the homework of other people, right? We're like, oh, we should have a detachment that buffs Sacrosans. Here's a tremendous number of incredibly strong buffs for Sacrosans. Okay, where do we put that? I don't know. Also, like, Hagiaman effects is very cool, but it doesn't feel like there's a lot of like necessarily like synergies here. This, on the other hand, feels like it was written at the very beginning of the design process, because a lot of these effects are wild. Like there's the bones of stuff that other detachments have, which is like, choose a thing, you get bonus detection range against it for your recon guys, and I can take the recon force dispo if I want to. However, the fact that this, instead of affecting one scout sentinel or one like seraphim unit, it affects like half your army, is crazy. But then also, it feels to me like these were written at the start of the process, and then they scaled back as things went on, the keywords that were affected by a detachment, but they never went back and changed this. And one of the other reasons for that is that this enhancement makes no sense. It's not like mechanically broken or anything, but it gives your cybernetic and datasmith models mobile for their unit if you're in an attached unit. Well, first of all, you could just say the cybernetic and datasmith unit gets mobile, right? Why does it have to specify that it has to be in an attached unit? But also, if he's support, he's always in an attached unit, because if he's not, he's dead at the start of the first battle round. So, like, why do we write all these words? It's weird. It doesn't make sense. Not that I'm complaining that it's like, there's a mechanical issue with it, but it's just bizarre to me. It's just super, super weird. Yeah, anyway. Techno-archaeologist has Tech Priest too. I guess that's cool. That's neat. Enhancements. That's Ving's Wafers of Dynamism. Also TL406, which is like my favorite enhancement of all time, simply because they wrote all of this flavor text for it, which is just like the fact that it's like a random like power generator or something, but they assume it's a weapon because when they open it, people die. I love that. That's so 40k. It just gives you an incredibly strong gun. We love that. That's cool. It is Tech Priest model only, so it does only affect the characters, but you could put it on your Cataphront Breacher unit that you want to remain hidden and fire like giant cannons at people, which is neat. Scriptural Prognosis. In your opponent's shooting phase or the fight phase, when an enemy targets a friendly Tech Priest unit that is within range of an objective, you target that Tech Priest unit, attacks the target at have -1 AP. Overloaded Safeguards. in your movement phase with a friendly tech priest unit, it's selected to make a fallback move. It does not prevent you from being able to shoot to clear charge. Bro, the breachers are so strong. Oh my god, those guys getting engaged was always a nightmare, but now they're going to be able to jump around. And then Holy Avarice. And your shooting phase of the friendly tech priest unit starts in action. It does not prevent you from being eligible to shoot. This detachment fucking rules, dude. This is awesome. Honestly, both of these are very good. I don't even know which one I like more. I can't decide. I like this one's very good from like a theme standpoint. I like that it just makes the tech priest like actually spooky, because it is a thing to some extent where tech priests in the past have been like kind of a pushover. I do like that this makes the tech priest kind of sweet. Yeah, I don't know. It seems good. Give the load operative engines your big gun. I think you want it on like the stuff that has rerolls, right? Like you put on your manipulus or whatever that's inside a breacher unit, and then he can make the unit shoot and remain hidden from your deployment zone, and then he can also just like fire a devastating wound gun with lethal hits and hit rerolls. That seems pretty good. And then last is Luminen Auto Choir. This is the Corpus Scari, the Electro Priest detachment. It gives Corpus Scari units lethal hits, which is sweet. And it gives Fulgurite units the ability to heal D3 wounds after they fight, which is actually like an old ability they used to have in 8th edition. The idea was that they like stole your like life energy from you. It was like a little bit weird. The theming of Fulgurites is a little bit suspect. The downside is that we can't play this with Halo Screen Battleclad. So the whole Wombo combo where we drop like Sanctified Ordnance and 5+ critical hits on a Corpus Scari unit and then go insane is not available. So I'm immediately not that excited about this. Enhancements, you get the Voltigeist Reliquary, which prevents your opponents from being able to snap shoot your tech priest. It's not too bad. Electromiasmic Brazier gives you stealth, which is sort of whatever. Have I ever told you about the Conduit Wars? Gives your Electro Priest reroll hits and wounds of 1 when you target an enemy on an objective. Chant of Electrotraction lets your units advance and charge. You can also probably source advance and shoot because you have access to Conqueror Doctrina, so that's pretty good. And then Momentum Feedback gives you surge on your Electro Priest. It is a little bit sad. Oh, excuse me. But in kind of a similar way to
At Hollow Touch donated $2 through Super Chat. Try War Organ. It has a desktop app for data sheets.
I don't know necessarily if I want to touch a service called War Organ. Did you just ask me to try your War Organ? I don't know, man. That's a little... It's quite a name. But I think what I have to do is get like a... what I have to get is a... what's the word? Just an emulator on my desktop, I think. I used to use one back in the day, and then I stopped doing it because it was kind of a pain in the ass. But I imagine that they're probably more sophisticated now. That was like 3 or 4 years ago. Yeah. Anyway. I'm a little bit less excited about Luminato Choir, which sucks because I think Corpus Scari are cool. And I want Corpus Scari to be good, but I don't know if these are necessarily that exciting. It's pretty funny to have like 2 just absolute fucking bangers, right? Just absolute insane detachments, and then one's like, okay, this is fine, I guess. Yeah. Interesting and fun Wombo combos. We can drop. People talk about Rad Zone Core, I guess. Are we interested in Rad Zone Core? That gives you D3 mortal wounds at the start of the first battle round. Unless you take cover. If you take cover, you become battle shocked for the first battle round, and on 5+, you take D3 mortal wounds. For From Battle Round 2 onwards, at the start of your command phase, roll d6 for each enemy unit within your opponent's deployment zone. On a 3+ hit, suffer 1 mortal wound and take a battle shock check. And then if you fail the battle shock check, it lasts forever. So that is very relevant. Also, incentivizing people to clear out of their deployment zone or killing screening units, which is very important, can make things much easier for your scoring. So if you play if you're playing a recon thing, so if you take like Cohort Acquisitus and this, and you play recon, and your opponent's forced to push out of their deployment zone to stop them from taking damage, then it's actually kind of sick because then you just go into the deployment zone and you score a bunch of points. Or you force them to sit there and they just get beat up on. The stratagems are okay, I guess. Minus 1 to be wounded is pretty neat. So, yeah, there's definitely play there. I think there's play. Also, I mean, I think that, like, you have to beat fucking Skitari Hunter cohort. The fact that this isn't a 3 detachment point detachment is crazy to me, and since that's absolutely wild. You can, like, double dip on all of the same unit keywords by taking Cohort Acquisitus plus Skitari Hunter. Or you can buff, like, different units by using Lords of the Forge. I don't know. I just think that these two together, like this and basically any of these, is going to be crazy. It's wild to me that it's 2 detachment points. It almost feels a little bit bad because I don't really... like, it almost feels, like, unnecessary to talk about other detachments, which is a little bit weird. I don't know. Anyway. Let's talk about Imperial Knights, chat. Go ahead and download the document, and we will go from there. So we're download. Oh my god, there we go. Cool. Imperial Knights time. So looking at some of our detachment points for the knights. We have the 3 1-point detachments. Freeblade Company is 3 detachment points because that's the one that gives you a feel of pain across your entire army. And then Questora's Companions is 3 because you can get multiple Coach Chivalric buffs. The other ones are 2, which might be good for Valor Strike, right? Because Valor Strike is like... Valor Strike makes you super fast. Being able to apply that alongside one of these other ones is neat. I like a Gate Warden Lance conceptually, but I think it's a little bit too awkward to make work. Is there like weird... Are there weird things that happen with the new objective rules? So like 2 objective markers on the battlefield to be your foundations. When you draw a line from any part of one of your foundations to another. Oh, no, wait. Gate Warden Lance is based. Because the objectives are fucking enormous now, the foundation line is huge. Wait, this is sick, actually. It used to be it was this little tiny band along, like, the side of the table, but now the foundations are, like, minimum of 6 inches wide. So the size of the battlefield that you affect with this ability is actually massive. That's really cool. That's really cool. Yeah, you make the entire terrain as a line. I mean, honestly, Gate Warden Knights needed a buff, right? Like it's the payoff is so good for fighting on the defensive line, but it was so difficult to trigger that it wasn't even worth like doing it. It was like worth trying, but I think it might be now. Yeah. So a unit on your defensive line when you're selected to fight, reroll hit rolls. Titanic unit that remains stationary on your defensive line gets sustained hits 2. Drive them out. 5+ critical hits when targeting enemies on your defensive line. Lance Breaker. Unit from your army that's selected as the target of one or more attacking units attacks and is on your defensive line. -1 to wound for attacks that are greater than your toughest characteristic. Also +3 movement, which is kind of sweet. You could do that on what's the guy? The little guy. The Destrier. And he just goes for days. He goes like 18 inches. And then charges. Ooh. Yeah, that's huge, chat. I'm into it. I don't know if that's necessarily going to be like the most effective composition, but I think that that's neat. Let's see what we can combo with. Going down to our errata. Where's our errata, please? We just don't have one. Oh, there it is. It's at the bottom for whatever reason.
At Bucket Off Steel Sybil donated $6.99 through Super Chat. Rad Zone and Forge Lords for a sustained hit Skunbot squad would be good, maybe.
Yeah, I think honestly, like the for like Castellan robots. I could see it for sure. What is the sustain? Oh, the sustain comes from the enhancement, right? There's an enhancement you can give them. Peerless Eradicator. Yeah, I guess that's okay. I'm interested in ranged Castellans. I think that's probably a place to go. And then like them like being able to source sustained lethal full rerolls from Belisarius Call is probably fine. I think that's like fine. The interesting thing is like a lot of those effects are available elsewhere for other units. I guess that's the one place where you can find it easily for Castellans. But you can get like most of the same overlapping stuff in other detachments for like breachers and things. So if you wanted to play like a big bulwark like gun unit, you could find that somewhere else. But yeah, I don't hate it. I think that's probably fine. Let's talk about Imperial Knights. So I don't think any of this stuff has been changed besides the normal things that we expect to see changed. Yeah, it's normal stuff. We'll move on to detachments. Let's go to Dominus Foebreakers. So this is the Big Knight, the Castellan, and the Valiant detachment. You get +1 to hit targeting enemies in terrain areas. So you basically sort of ignore cover, and you can also get punching fire. So you can get hitting on 2s, which is neat. You can give it +1 toughness. You can give it reroll on its number of attacks. You can give it +2 movement. You can target enemies in melee with you to get +1 attack instead of blast. What's interesting is that you don't necessarily have to target something you're engaged with in order to get the bonus, which is funny. So you just have to be engaged. So you could be engaged with like 5 Space Marines or something, and then you turn around and you shoot at something else that you wouldn't trigger blast against anyway, and you just ignore the blast keyword anyway and get the bonus, the +1 attack baseline, which is very funny. That's not obviously the intended use of the stratagem, but I think it's funny that you can do that. And then Fire Shocks lets you force a battle shock check on enemies that you shoot at, which is sometimes useful. If you have any abilities to like pump the movement characteristic of these guys so they can more easily get within hidden range, or you can strip hidden from them, then this feels like it's going to be very strong on Castellans. Being able to reroll the number of attacks on a Castellan is huge because you get to reroll the like the ones on the plasma and the big volcano lance, which is like where a lot of times they'll just roll a 1 on one of those and then their like damage output drops precipitously. But being able to make the attacks and the random guns more consistent is huge. Quester Forge Pact. This is the thing that lets you also take Adeptus Mechanicus. So Your friendly Imperial Knights give +1 ballistic skill and heavy to Adeptus Mechanicus units within 6, and the Adeptus Mechanicus units within 3 of an Imperial Knight heals them if they're a Tech Priest. You get Dominus, Manipulus, Marshal, Ranger, Vanguard into your army. No Techno-Archeal, just which would actually be very good. And they cannot exceed 500 points. There's an enhancement to improve the amount that you heal for a Tech Priest. And there is an enhancement to gain +1 weapon skill and AP. While an Imperial Knight is within 6 inches of a Mechanicus unit. That's pretty good, actually. We can give an Imperial Knight 5+ penalty against mortal wounds, kind of whatever. When a Titanic unit is destroyed, you can get reroll wounds for your Adeptus Mechanicus units. However, you're doing this on like Rangers and stuff, which is not that exciting. And you can get an advance or fallback on an AdMech unit and still perform an action. So this just gives you, it costs a detachment point. It gives you some strong utility. I don't know necessarily whether or not it's like worth the whole extra detachment though. But it's definitely not too bad. I guess like in some cases reroll wound rolls is okay, especially if we can like full hit and wound reroll on people. But I feel like we're just taking a couple of Rangers. Like taking the Tech Priest feels a little bit weird, but maybe if they're kind of inexpensive and we can find ways for like just really small Tech Priests can hide in terrain and heal your robots, I think that's not too bad for sure. Throne Bonded Outriders is the last one. This gives armature units that are affected by a bondsman ability also ignore cover, which is sweet. It has the armature tag, so it will likely not be able to be taken alongside the other armature detachment. You can upgrade armatures to gain mobile, which is actually sweet. Ancestral Overbleed gives you Overwatch Heroic Intervention for -1 command point. Fine. Probably not going to play that, though, to be honest. Neural Lash gives can unbattle shock armatures within 12 inches of you. Helm Conditioning gives an Imperial Knight unit using its Bondsman ability an 18-inch range on the Bondsman ability. Rather than 12, that's +6 inches of range.
At Heist_Bank myself donated $5 through Super Chat. Did you go over the support changes in Sororitas? Can we dual attach Sacrescents now?
Were there support changes for Adepta Sororitas? If there were, then I don't think I talked about them. I guess we can go back to our sister's document. Oh my god. That is here. No, nothing changed. Yeah. Oh, no, sorry. No, that's not true. Some stuff changed. I totally missed it. Dialogus, Dogmata, Hospitaller, Magifier, removed leader and added support. So that basically, I think all that does is prevent them from not attaching. Because you already had the nomenclature that allowed them to dual attach to things. Unless that changes, which it doesn't seem like it is, you're going to be able to attach them with the stuff you could anyway. Yeah, I don't think anything really changed. I don't believe there's any rules context besides this, meaning that you can't double up on support characters unless otherwise specified, and they can't like go by themselves or just wander around. But you can still dual attach to other stuff. Mm-mm. All right. The big thing here, I think, is we are eligible to perform an action for a command point on armigers when you shoot, which is pretty neat. Given that a lot of times you are taking several armigers alongside your big knights, I think that's extremely helpful. Especially, I guess it depends a lot on how much utility we can, space for utility we can find inside Imperial Knight armies as well. I guess I don't really know where necessarily we're going with a lot of this stuff. There's maybe a argument to take some of this alongside Valor Strike because we're already making our stuff faster and we can compound multiple effects that make our stuff quicker. So being able to +2 move and advance and shoot on Knight Dominus is pretty interesting. There's maybe some stuff there. I guess if we look at our there we go. If we look at our detachment points here, I do like Gate Warden Lance. I don't know exactly where it attaches into. Maybe Throne Bonded. There's certainly something to be said for Valor Strike and Dominus Foe Breakers, right? Because we have multiple speed improvements. And Valor Strike has some pretty consistent stuff, like Rotate Ion Shells, I think, which is helpful. Yeah. Those are the two I would be most excited about, I think. Spearheaded Arms is interesting. But because we can't take it with Throne Bonded, I don't know if it's that exciting. We're already trying to take high volume, so I don't know if we need it with Question Fort Pact. And Dominus Knights. It's the Castellan doesn't really do Bondsman. They just don't have a Bondsman effect, so they have no synergy with Spearhead, which is unfortunate. So I don't really know where we go with this little guy. He seems a little bit awkward over here. So I don't know. There's certainly some stuff in there for sure. But also you could still just play Free Blade Company. I think it's okay. All right, let's move on. Let's talk about some other people. We have Custodes and Agents left. Although Agents, I guess we could rip the bandit off Agents. We'll do that at the end. But let's talk about Adeptus Custodes. So let's do stuff. Let me find the faction pack for Adeptus Custodes here. There it is. We've got there. So looking at our detachment points momentarily for our big banana boys. We've got 1 point detachments for all the new stuff. Obviously, the only thing coming in at 3 is Talons. Jesus. So Shield Host, Solar Spearhead, Lions of the Emperor are all 2? Holy fuck. That's crazy, dude. That's super awesome. Okay. We are starting strong here, boys. This is all slow. Let's pop open our fast document. Yeah, Lions being 2 is absolutely insane. I honestly also Shield House being 2 is unironically kind of insane too. I know Shield House isn't quite as widely played, but it's just such a massive improvement in damage. Okay. Any updates to things? Doesn't look like it. Stuff got the frame keyword, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, this is all, I think, old stuff. I don't think any of these things are new. So let's talk about some detachments. All right. Boom. Might of the Moritoi. This is the armory tag, so you probably won't be able to take it with Solar Spearhead, but they haven't told us that yet. You get +2 movement, +1 to advanced charge rolls on Custodes walkers. You can upgrade them to reroll hit and wounds of 1, and you can give them a discount on crushing impact, which is the new tank shock strat. So already we could this is all attacks for reroll hit wounds of 1. And at a baseline, they're +2 move, +1 to advance and charge. Fucking sick. We also get a conditional -1 to wound and mobile. And then a Telemann Heavy Dreadnought can get rapid fire on all of its guns. So if we could take potentially a Telemann Heavy Dreadnought that's getting hit rerolls and additional attacks. I don't think there's anything that like necessarily combos with that, right? Because most of the other things are non-vehicle, like ranged buffs, but all of those things alone are relatively sweet. It is kind of damning, I guess, that like the baseline profiles of these like relic contemptors are so mediocre that you do have to apply like a million buffs to them to make them viable, but it is good, right? I think it's interesting. I'm definitely curious to grab these guys. Silent Hunters is the next one. Let's anathema Psychana. When selected to make an advanced move, it does not prevent them from being eligible to start an action. That's fucking sick. You also can increase detection range targeting enemies. What's interesting about this is like it's basically like all the other recon detachments that we've seen, except this one just has 2 abilities. Why? I don't know. We stuck 2 of them together. 1 was not enough. We're gonna give him 2. You're like, okay, fair enough, I guess. You have an enhancement for Encircling Hunter for Anathema Psychana only. It lets you redeploy up to 3 Psychana infantry units. It's infantry only, so you can't do Null Maiden Rhinos, which is kind of whatever. I don't know if I'm not interested in this particularly. The other thing we can do is take Psych Out grenades, which gives us explosives. It's an upgrade, so you can take it on anything. And you get reroll on explosive rolls, targeting Psyker units, which is fucking awesome. If this isn't too expensive, that's going to be pretty good. Although I'm interested, like, do the baseline Anathema units not have grenades to begin with? Oh, they don't. I did not realize that. Oh, okay. Okay, well, that's pretty neat. Yeah, being able to upgrade for explosives is, like, at a baseline pretty good. And then I think this is going to be actually strong counterplay to Psyker stuff. Psychic units do tend to have strong and vulnerable saves in general, like Zoanthropes and Lords of Change and, you know, all the greater demons and stuff like that. They don't really want to eat mortal wounds. So being able to force, on average, like 5 mortal wounds out of them for a command point is actually pretty sick. You can put the explosives on a Rhino. I guess that's true. It's like a grenade launcher. Little grenade launcher. I don't know how often you're going to get the Rhino to actually throw the grenades, but that is cute. We can use some strats. Death Song Scythes gives Vigilators land to push my attack. Ooh. That's pretty good. There's also the case that you can play these in Lions, and they get the Lion's Detachment ability. And Vigilators were played like occasionally in Lines of the Emperor as a as, you know, just a unit. And obviously, like, you don't necessarily need it if all you're doing is getting Lance, but +1 attack that's also +1 to hit and wound, so hitting on 2s and then has the lens effect is going to be kind of sweet. If you are targeting a Psyker unit. But at the very least, this allows you to play Vigilators outside of lines, I think, and still be relatively effective with them. Prosecutors, you give their bolt guns rapid fire 2 and +1 AP. Nobody really cares about that. And then Witch Seekers, you could give your turret weapons blast. Again, outside of Vigilators, we're not really actually trying to do damage with these units. But Vigilators, because you can make them relatively fast with the what's the lady, Knight Centura, excuse me. They can close the distance pretty well. They're kind of expensive for like a skirmishy unit, but they're less expensive than Custodian Guards, and they're faster than them. And so being able to buff those things specifically is actually sweet. So, yeah, I mean, worst case scenario, we just have advance and do actions with any Anathema Psychona units, which includes our vehicles, which is just great. So this is like already, we're off to the races with 2 pretty strong stuff. The last one is Tyrannotoi Hammer Blow, which gives you reroll charges with Terminator units when you make an ingress move. It is the Lion tag, so you could probably not take it with Lines of the Emperor, but again, they don't say that because they're silly. Enhancements. Nemo locked Shrine Cipher gives you turn 1 turn 1 ingress. We love that. Not rapid ingress, regular ingress. Efficient Aggression. It's a Terminator model. In your opponent's shooting phase, if you're when an enemy unit has shot, if this unit lost wound as the result of those attacks, it gets a surge move of D6+1. That's pretty cool. What's interesting is I don't know if you can surge move if you rapid ingress them, just like randomly. I don't think that works, but it is funny. However, because you can't make movements until the next fight phase, I believe. That said, not too bad. We can strat for +1 toughness on our Terminators. We can also unleash the Lions to split them into units with starting strength of 1. And we can use Electro Exorcist Saturation, which gives Ballistic Grenade Launchers D3+3 attacks. Instead of the normal D6, and then these guys obviously get wound rolls against character units. So if you are sort of stacking all that together, they go into big heavy squads, like big 20-mans and stuff, and absolutely vaporize them because you're shooting a bunch of like strength 4 AP1 with like almost full rerolls. The fact you can't take this with Lions, I think, might just kill it. I don't really know if we're putting a lot of stock in Terminators outside that detachment. Or I guess I should say the fact that you likely can't take this with Lions, I think, does make it the least exciting of all of these. I honestly, I do feel a little bit bad for any of the detachments that aren't like hypercharging your utility, because it does feel to me like in most cases we're going to be taking a detachment that a core detachment, a 2 DP detachment that is going to buff our like midboard units, right? The mainstay units of our army, and then being able to especially add like advance into action buffs to our utility immediately like skyrockets that detachment in its efficiency. So like, I don't know. It kind of just feels like you're playing Silent Hunters all the time with sort of whatever you want. And the fact that you can do so alongside something like Shield Host or Solar kind of makes it feel like you're just going to do that. So I don't know. Or Lions, right? We could take, we just do that, I guess. I don't know. If you want to rock like the vehicles, I guess you could take like Might of the Moratory. I don't, maybe I'm characterizing, but I don't know if the Terminator one is like that exciting to me. A lot of the stuff you get from that, like you either get from just playing lions normally, i.e. the stratagems, and like the defensive technology and plus one toughness is okay. It pushes them from 7 to 8, I think, but I don't know. That breakpoint's sort of mediocre in a lot of cases. A lot of anti-heavy infantry sweeping is strength 9. So I don't know if you care so much. Like if you're being shot by explicitly strength 7 or strength 4, it's good. Or strength 8, I guess. So if you're being punched by power fist, it's good. But that's like very specific for plus and toughness to matter. So yeah, it feels like in this case, in a lot of cases, you're just taking sort of buffs too. If you're not taking talons, you're taking something like a spearhead, a lions, or a shield host, and then you're just slotting in silent hunters in addition to that to like make your utility hyper efficient. Yeah, which I think is, I don't know. It seems great, to be honest. Problem you have with lions with sisters is that you get reconnaissance. Reconnaissance is good. It feels to me like reconnaissance is a payoff rather than like a cost. Because in a lot of cases, reconnaissance, like you get to play in a way that is like doesn't necessarily run directly into how your opponent's playing. And there's gonna be some cases where you're playing like you can unleash the lions on Alaris Terminators and get like 5 utility units, and then you can use them for like board control much more easily for a reconnaissance game plan. Whereas if you're playing like Purge or Take and Hold or something, they're going to be less useful. So I don't know. I think that there's interesting stuff you can do with it. But I don't know if I want to like put a lot of stock into force dispositions right now, because like without a ton of experience under our belts, like I don't know if we're necessarily going to have an accurate look at exactly like how we feel about force dispositions. All right. I guess we'll like rip the band-aid off by talking about Imperial Agents really quick. I don't think they changed anything in the update here. They added frame to Corvus Black Star, and it got the same thing that it got previously. Yeah, and it kind of feels like these are all basically the same. I don't think there are anything particularly changed. And then the kicker is that all their detachments are 3 detachment points. I think that we had been talking about like maybe, man, if they make like a bunch of their detachments 1 or 2, if you give like Imperialis Fleet 2 and like you make some like Veiled Blade 1 or something, like that's pretty interesting, and they have more like stratagems access than anyone else. But no, get fucked.
At Captain Butterballs donated €5 through Super Chat. Veiled Blade could cost 0 DP and it would still not see play.
Yeah, for sure. I don't know. I don't quite understand what's going on with them in regards to Imperial Agents. I'm not sure I get it. Like, Imperial Agents is clearly fucked. You lose nothing by making them more playable. Like, either I don't know. Like, I don't want to say like remove them as a playable entity, because I think it's cool that you can play them, right? I think that's cool and interesting. I do think it leads some people astray, because if you come in from the lore side of the hobby, and you're like, man, I can play a faction of Inquisitors and shit. I love Inquisitors. All the books about them are cool. And then like the guy at the GW store goes, yeah, dude, you can play Imperial Agents. It's all about like Inquisitors and they're like the various like chamber militants and stuff. They'd be like, oh, sick, I'm in. And then you play a game and you're like, this sucks. This is miserable. I hate this. And the only playable detachment is Imperialis Fleet, which is the Rogue Trader detachment. Okay. What? So it's like you're like almost leading people astray, right? With this faction existing, but throwing them a bone is so easy, right? Making them a little bit easier to play is so fucking simple. Just change these numbers to be smaller, and then they'd be okay. It would be fine. But yeah, Veilblade Elimination Force is like laughably terrible. Just like actively makes your army worse and gives you a bunch of 2 command point stratagems that affect 1 model at a time. What the hell, dude? Even like the Ordo detachments are like hyper mid. There's a couple of combos in there that are interesting, but not many. Imperialis Fleet is like legitimately strong, but the data sheets you're applying it to are fucking atrocious. So like, I don't know. I think it would have been interesting if their detachments were really cheap and you just got a bunch of abilities you could use. I think that'd be cool. But it is what it is. Yeah. Make Imperialist Fleet 2 and the others 1. Yeah. I guarantee you that the reason they didn't is, well, they're like, nobody gives a shit about Imperial Agents, is what they say, I assume. And so they say, we're not going to spend design resources developing 1 DP detachments for a faction nobody plays. And there is a hard and fast rule somewhere in the GDD for 11th edition that says the totality of options a player will have for use in the game will be 9 stratagems. And because Imperial Agents aren't getting new detachments and their existing detachments have 6 stratagems each, they're required, because of those things, they're required to make them 3 detachment points. I guarantee you that's how the discussion went, right? Where it's like, if we let them take 2 detachments together, they'll have more stratagems than anyone else, and that's unacceptable. Who cares, though? Fucking nobody plays this faction. It doesn't matter. Besides, Fulcher Piles that one time where a bunch of people bet him he wouldn't make top cut at Adepticon, and then he made a bunch of money, because he did. Yeah, I don't know. It's like, as much as I think there's a lot of interesting stuff you could do with Imperial Agents, I understand their reticence to spend a bunch of time doing that. So like, I get it. I understand that you're not going to be like, oh, let's put a bunch of effort into making efficient the faction that has a single digit number of players. However, you can take the stuff you already have and you can let people play it together. I think it's fine. And if things are broken, we'll figure it out, dude. It's okay. I don't know. I mean, it's not like Agents are gone for other people. You can still play other stuff, and Agents will still be good in other places. I guess, like, did they change the Calidus Assassin? We were looking at updates. Yeah, they did. For the stratagem update thing, the stratagem dealie. Here's a interesting change, I guess. Vindicare Assassin. Enemy units do not have lone operative. So this is also another one of my pet peeves that I've talked about, I think, in every one of these videos, is that there remains many effects that give a lone operative style effect, but that is not lone operative. This is where that comes into play. The Vindicare Assassin says, when this unit is selected to shoot, and until it has shot, enemy units do not have lone operative. However, if you're a Greater Demon next to Bellicor, it doesn't matter. You still can't be targeted because his effect says you can't target. It doesn't say you don't have lone operative. It doesn't give you hidden. It says you can't be targeted. So the Vindicare Assassin has all these abilities that interact with the hidden and lone operative mechanics, and 90% of the hidden and lone operative mechanics, like abilities in the game, don't interact in any way with that. That's stupid. That's stupid, and it makes me angry. And speaking as someone who plays a lot of those because they're really strong, I think the Vindicare Assassin should be able to shoot me even if I'm in Bellicor's aura, because he should give you lone operative, and it's fucking dumb that he doesn't. I don't know. frustrates me. It makes me frustrated, chat. Yeah. Bellacore demons get 10 stratagems. The battle line detachment. Oh, do they? Oh, because they have one for each chaos god. Of course. Yeah, but like, do you count the corn one? We don't count the corn one. That one doesn't. Who cares about that one? Yeah, I don't know. Anyway. Yeah. If they could have cut down the other detachments too, because like I guarantee you, if we look through Imperial Agent detachments, right, I guarantee we could find some bullshit we could cut that we don't care about, that wouldn't do anything. Let's see. Ordo Zetos Alien Hunters. This one might be tough because these are all. It has all of their special issue ammunition stuff. But you could, yeah, I don't know. So Ordo Zetos Alien Hunters could be 2 detachment points probably. The other one is Demon Hunters. Cybolt Ammunition. You give lethal hits and psychic to ranged weapons. I mean, Cybolt Ammunition is a classic. Maybe we keep that one. Ritual of Warding. You obsec. Which, by the way, I don't think has been changed to be secured. Is that true?
At FateWeaver9 donated $5 through Super Chat. The reactive move of the Corn Demon one got hugely buffed.
Oh, a Blood Legion? Yeah, because your engagement range is longer. But we're talking about the Warp Surge or whatever it is. Warp get a bunch of warp guys detachment. Where you probably don't play Corn Demons because they're not that exciting. The other battle line demons are like way more interesting in that particular composition. Warp Tide, yeah, that one. Steel Heart lets you fall back and shoot your Terminators. Armor of Contempt for Terminators. Hexagrammic wards. Ah, here we are, chat. The true slop. An Ordo Malice unit from your army that was selected as the target of one or more attacking units' attacks. All psychic weapons equipped by models the attack unit have hazardous. Go fuck yourself, dude. That's a whole ass stratagem they printed. Get out of here. Select one demon unit within 12 inches visible to you. It must take a battle shock test. If that test is failed, your attacks gain devastating wounds against it. Not even just devastating wounds against demons. Devastating wounds contingent on a battle shock test that will probably heal the demon when they pass it. Fucking just true slop. Incredible. What's the other one? Ordo Hereticus? No. Ordo Hereticus Purgation Force. Line of Fire. Until the end of the phase, monitors unit can target units that are engaged at range of one or more friendly units with ranged weapons, excluding blast, provided the target is within 12. Who gives a shit? Just fall back. Exact Punishment. After an agent of the Imperium army unit from your army is destroyed, you shoot them. That's probably pretty good. We want to keep that one. You get precision targeting a character unit for 2 command points on a select Adeptus Arbites, Inquisitorial Agents, or Order Hereticus Infantry, which is like a Battle Sisters. Gain precision in the command phase. I guess it's all your attacks. But like, come on, dude. Like, we can cut some of these strats. Lethal hits is good, right? Lethal hits is good. Reactive shoot is good. 5+ field opaque is good. Keep those 3. Cut these other ones. Fuck it. Make it a 1-point detachment. It's so stupid. What did that take us, chat? That took us like 10 minutes. And we were able to convert 2 of these detachments to 1-pointers. It's silly. Anyway. They should make a Imperial Agents ally detachment for Imperial, make them all 1 DP. No, I don't know necessarily if I like the idea of giving you detachments that other people can get. Like, what you don't want to do is give you like good forces positions that everyone in every faction can get access to for 1 detachment point. I think that might be too far. But we're talking about using them as an independent faction, which means that by definition you're saddled into using their terrible data sheets, right? So it's like, what's the worst that could possibly happen? Worst case is like, oh no, there's a broken combo and their win rate improves from 35% to 42. Fuck me, I guess. Like, I don't know. It's just stupid. It's stupid how little they care. Like, clearly how little they care. But it is what it is. Anyway, chat. I think that is good. I'm okay. I'm good with that. That's all the detachments in the game and all the new stuff and things. So yeah, I think we're gonna go ahead and call this live stream here. I'm a little sleepy, so I'm gonna lie down for a bit, and I'm gonna pack my bags and head on over to the shiny Atlantic City, where I'm gonna set up for the Atlantic City Open. We're gonna live stream starting tomorrow, and it's gonna be great. We're doing the 5-player ATC team event. And hopefully it goes well. So please come hang out with me over there. If we want to continue to talk about 10th edition stuff, or 11th edition stuff, excuse me, come hang out with me over there, because I'm sure that will be a lot of the discourse. Obviously, there will be games of 40k happening. They will be using the current ATC rules. So obviously, they will not be 11th edition. But we can talk about 11th edition while we're there. And as I close out the live stream here, I will send you over to that event. But that's going to happen. I believe it starts at 10 a.m. U.S. Eastern Time. So in 21 hours or so. So I'll see you over there. Cheers, everybody. Keep it classy, folks. And I'll see you in the next one.